The bones tell me nothing.
What does the High Aldwin mean? I know this sounds like a stupid question. He consulted the bones, and they told him nothing. What's there not to get? But stay with me a minute. When he says,
The bones tell me nothing,
it's obvious he's whispering covertly to Willow. The plan being he'll sway the will of the village according to what Willow wants.
Do you have any love for this child?
And because of Willow's affection for the Daikini,
Yes, I do. The bones have spoken!
the High Aldwin lies to the village, leveraging his position to spare the child from being murdered by the infanticidal villagers.
That's what the beasts want. Let's give it back to them.
Back to the question at hand. When the High Aldwin says,
The bones tell me nothing.
does he mean that in that moment the bones are telling him nothing? That whatever magical prescience normally imbued into the bones is absent? Or that the bones always tell him nothing? I think the High Aldwin is a fraud. I know this sounds ridiculous since he has that Gandalfian beard and people are palanquining him around like he's some sort of primitive god or something. But you've been conned. The High Aldwin doesn't have any more magical abilities than Burglekutt does. Don't believe me? Let's start with this apprenticeship nonsense. He has himself man-taxied in under the pomp of regal fanfare, interrupting the festival and spoiling everybody's fun. In order to win this apprenticeship, Willow and two other guys humiliatingly have to pick the High Aldwin's favorite finger, which is the exact same street con as what number am I thinking of? And isn't the first guy in line way more disadvantaged than the last guy, since he's folding down the incorrectly chosen fingers? I know later he says,
Pick my own finger. That was the correct answer.
but then why fold them down if it's specific to the person? This is just straight bullshit, right? Anyway, shockingly, nobody picks the right finger.
No apprentice this year.
So the High Aldwin will just have to reign as village dictator for another year. Then the beast dog attacks the village, and they deduce it was looking for a baby.
He was looking for somebody's baby.
When the dog started ripping apart the baby cradle, doesn't that seem like a great time for the High Aldwin to step in with some magic? Instead of just gaping around in a frozen panic? Anyway, the magical sorcerer hides under a table until the warriors kill the dog pig, invoking a town hall meeting in a local barn. Then comes this talking bones con.
I will consult the bones.
I'd imagine the average dilemma the bones normally tackle measures in severity somewhere between, will my 8th child be a boy, and I mildly cut my finger, how much longer have I got left? I can see how something like, what do we do with an alien baby, might stretch the boundaries of the High Aldwin's comfort zone of bullshit. So he puts it on Willow.
Willow Ufgood, the safety of this village depends upon you.
Which isn't so deplorable since he seems to like Allura. But then, when it comes to recruiting protection for Willow, instead of the all-knowing magical wizard volunteering, he starts polling the village for people willing to risk their lives as travel companions.
Who has the courage to protect our brave fellow on his journey?
People who can't conjure impenetrable shields or cast defensive spells.
Acorns? They're magic.
He does give Willow the petrifying acorns, which I suppose is a nice gesture. And they do work. But they're so random. It makes me think he's just re-gifting magic swag a real sorcerer had given him at last year's WizCon or something. And I get the impression that, for the Elwins, this is one of their more dangerous quests, and to send them off with a few acorns and the inspiring encouragement of,
You have much to learn, young Ufgood.
it wouldn't exactly make me feel super confident about the journey I just volunteered for. Something like this might be helpful.
My spell is protecting this cannon.
Frodo got some pretty cool toys for his journey.
Mithril.
And Gandalf appreciates the peril Frodo is in, so he tags along.
I will help you bear this burden, Frodo Baggins.
Even though he really doesn't do very much magic. But not this guy. Then the High Aldwin lies to the village again for the sole reason of fabricating petty comeuppance for Burglekutt.
And according to the bones, that leader is you, Burglekutt.
Who's heavy, out of shape, and walks with a cane, creating a serious liability for the Fellowship here. So it's not like the High Aldwin is some benevolent custodian of the village. He's a dick.
I don't like adventures.
And then the High Aldwin hits him with this beauty. which he clearly just invented on the spot since Willow hits him back with a look like, I have no idea what the you're talking about. This look on the High One's face as Willow walks away, it's either grave trepidation or one of those looks like, I can't believe he bought that.
Tuatha. No Kothrak. Tuatha.
This here is the only example of the High One actually performing any magic. I guess it's impressive he turned a rock into a poorly trained bird, but can we really call this magic? Willow shoves a flaming poker through his arm and makes a pig and a baby disappear.
It was just my old disappearing pig trick.
That's just as impressive, and we know that's not magic. Illusionists do this kind of trick all the time. I don't think the High One turned anything into anything. It's just a cheap sleight of hand he learned from a book or something. So, based on the information given to us in the movie, it seems the High One bamboozled his way into ruling this Elwyn village by leveraging parlor tricks against medieval-grade superstition. But don't worry, there's a happy ending here. At the end of the movie, Willow returns to his village more seasoned from his experiences and maybe a bit wiser to the High One's long con. But Willow doesn't expose him. You see, Willow knows that he himself is not a good sorcerer.
You mean you're not a sorcerer?
He's actually fairly crummy at it.
Sorta.
Willow! You idiot!
But he knows that being a crap sorcerer is way better than being a pretend one. So you see that look? He's sending a message. I'm coming for your job, old man. You're not the only one who can pull bullshit cons on people. See? So how about we start up this apprenticeship lickety-split and get this transition of power over with before I turn you into a mole rat. By the way, why would Queen Bavmorda send a ravenous murder beast to retrieve an infant?
Use the dogs. Bring her back to me alive.
They seem like pretty blunt instruments, and couldn't really be trusted to not just eat every newborn it came across. What if Alora Dannon had been in that cradle? Then what? Did the beast know she wasn't in that cradle? If so, why was it wasting time destroying it? And why doesn't Mad Mardigan fall in love with Willow? He looks at him like 100 times between getting dosed and seeing Sorsha. And don't tell me one species can't fall in love with another species because Kevin Pollak falls in love with a cat.